So 10 years ago, the conference was conceived as a way to gather the very few IT folks working in law schools to come together and find common ground. It was a kind of a raw, but sort of a heady conference. There was a lot of energy there. The attendees, though, we were convinced that computer technology was going to have a significant impact on legal education, and that the people who worked in IT and law schools formed some sort of emerging profession, and that by sharing their insight, they would benefit themselves and their institutions. When we first, we thought of the idea in mid-April of '91. We sent a letter out, and it's basically said, save this date and call this number if you think it can come. The date was wrong, and the phone number was wrong. I can publicly take responsibility for that now. We were trying to gauge interest, and so I called the wrong number that we had sent out to everybody, and a rather exasperated voice said, yes. And I said, hi, this is John Mayer. And he said, you! After I calmed him down, he did tell me that a lot of people seem to be interested in having a conference. So we quickly sent out another letter with the correct information. And in June, early June, we had the first conference for law school computing professionals there at Chicago Kent in our old building, which is now a parking lot. 70 people attended, and to me, one of the noteworthy sessions was John Hankins of CICnet. CICnet stood for the Committee on Institutional Cooperation. They were I guess we would call them an ISP now, of the Big Ten universities. And he stood up and told everybody, in a couple of years, you're all going to be on the internet and using it every day. And we went, what? What's the internet? He was more than prescient. We also experimented with a new type of software. It was called Brainstorm, which we had gotten a free copy of. And everybody sat down and was going to chat with each other inside the same room, which sort of didn't make much sense. But that's okay, because the software promptly crashed the network. And it seems crashing systems were threatening to become a common theme of future conferences. Over the years, we've had malfunctioning air conditioning systems, crashed networks. We've been in 2 buildings that were currently under construction while the conference was going on. I think the elevators went out one year for a couple of hours. And maybe the worst was when the plumbing in this building crashed and we had to send people over to Union Station to use the bathroom. But despite this, the attendance kept growing. And I believe it's because, well, this conference certainly does not conform to traditional academic conferences. Speakers did not present papers. Instead, they would demonstrate their successful projects, or sometimes more interestingly, their failed projects, because you learn as much from the things that don't work as the things that do. But it was a great place to steal ideas, implement them in your own institution, and take credit for them, which was the point. Basically, we became a lot stronger for the collective wisdom that we came to share at these conferences. The conference was also almost a clairvoyant predictor of corporate mergers and acquisitions of its sponsors. Let me go down a list of some of the sponsors of past conferences. Wang was the sponsor of the first conference. They declared bankruptcy shortly after that conference. Lotus sponsored a couple of conferences in the early 90s. They were bought by IBM. Matthew Bender, bought by Lexus. Shepard's, acquired by Lexus. Little Brown, acquired by Aspen. Lexus, bought by Reed Elsevier. West has been a long-time sponsor, bought by Thomson. WordPerfect, which was bought by Novell, and then bought by Corel. They weren't happy enough to be acquired just once. This trend worried me very much, and I was really relieved a couple of years ago when we got a corporate sponsor that I thought was about as rock solid as you could get, Microsoft. Anyhow, this year's conference is the largest ever. The attendees are roughly divided between faculty, law librarians, and IT staff, but the distinctions have blurred, and what I mean by, I'll explain that in a second. The distinctions have so blurred that we've... Are you there? Pardon me? But the distinctions have blurred that we've almost given up on trying to have separate tracks that are aimed at those particular individuals. And I mean, it's got to be because so many of us have responsibilities that cross the lines, and so it doesn't make sense to say, this is the law librarian track, or this is the faculty track, or something like that. We have, I think we have over 70 sessions this year, over 100 speakers and presenters. And this is very significant because the value of this conference is in its speakers. It's the experiences, the real world experiences that they bring. And I'm personally, and all of us collectively, are in great debt to those individuals who volunteer to take their time and out of their busy schedules to prepare the materials and their presentations for this. I'd like to remind you that if you attend a session and you find it was a good session, or you enjoyed it or got something out of it, let the speaker know. There's nothing that makes a speaker come back more to give more talks than to know that what they said was relevant and interesting and valuable. All right? For this conference, or to acknowledge this debt, for the 10th annual conference here, the Board of Directors of CALI has authorized the creation of the CALI Excellence in Service Award to recognize contributions made by individuals to the legal education and law school computing community. You can see the awards out in the lobby, and we're going to make a presentation of those at the dinner tomorrow night at the Hyatt. In conclusion, because I know Jerry wants to get started here, I just thought I would do a typical David Letterman top 10 of the most memorable events over the last 10 years. My lawyer will probably tell me that I must disclaim that this may not look like the truth or anything like that. And my memory's not as good as it used to be. So here we go. Number 10. James Callison driving all night from Oklahoma in his pickup, showing up with one arm pasty white and the other bright sunburned red. Is James here? Darn. Number 9. The Anarchists. Number 8. Will Sadler claiming for 3 straight years that the design of the conference brochure contained disturbing subliminal sexual imagery. Will is back on his meds and he's doing fine. Number 7, John Cam's overuse of a certain sound clip of Meg Ryan from the movie When Harry Met Sally. Number 6, the time when John booked us at the House of Blues for dinner and forgot the seating. Everyone had to eat standing up. Sorry about that. Number 5, the crashing of the network at the first conference when experimenting with the new software, leading Ron Stout to quip, well, if you're going to crash a network, it's a good place to do it with so many network administrators around. Number 4, the stranding of attendees at Tommy Gunn's garage on the south side on a Friday night with no cabs. Number 3, one word, paintball. I knew that would get one. Number 2, the unpredictable nature of the video encoding, this was a couple of years back, that resulted in Hank Parrott's presentation in 1998 looking like he was doing a combination of the Macarena and the locomotion. And the number 1 most memorable event at our conferences, Tom Bruce's demo of Cello, the first Windows-based web browser, and its subsequent demo to an obscure grad student at the University of Illinois, causing the formation of some small company called Netscape, and therefore all of Microsoft's problems today. Page 69 of Weaving the Web. Tom Bruce gets mentioned, and the conference almost gets mentioned. All right, last thing. Next year, we're in Boston, Suffolk University. More about that later. And now I'd like to